I think it's no doubt the entire axis of resistance, because we're dealing with a two regimes that have and and their allies and proxies that have no moral compass. I mean, just last night, the Israeli regime slaughtered a family in Lebanon, a woman and her children. They were all massacred. And it's not even in the Western media. They don't care. Western journalists. And by the way, quite a few Western journalists do watch your show. And I know this from a producer of a major media outlet in the West who says that people in over there do watch your show and a couple of the other important online shows, but uh, but of course none of in their media they don't they don't show any of these things, but or bring on people who speak in critical of the West. But in any case, what happened in Lebanon last night was a massacre. But there's total indifference in the Western media, and what happens every day in Gaza is there's total indifference. So Iran knows that it's dealing with a political establishment in the West that has no moral compass. They're just brutal killers, and and they will, if they have the ability to destroy Lebanon or Yemen or Iraq or Iran, they'll do so, just like they did with Syria. In the name of freeing the Syrian people, they destroyed Syria with the collaboration of regional regimes bound to the West, and those people who are on the Qatari payroll or the Saudi payroll or Erdogan payroll or the Emirati payroll. They can say all they want, but the facts are the facts. And this was a proxy war to undermine Syria, to strengthen the Israeli regime, and they to a degree succeeded. They failed in certain ways because um, their proxies were badly weakened during these years of war, but they also succeeded in breaking the bridge between uh, Iran and Palestine and Lebanon. It's made it more difficult. But in any case, this is about not just Iran; it's about all of Iran's allies in the region. And we saw the statement made by the outgoing chair of the Supreme National Security Council the day before he was to be removed, stating that this for an agreement to come about between Iran and the United States, the MOU has to be implemented in full, and he explained what it means, because in, for example, Article 1 of the MOU, it says Lebanon and the other fronts, but in his final statement he said Lebanon, Palestine, not even Gaza, Yemen, and Iraq. And of course the new chair spoke of Gaza. He said Lebanon and Gaza, which, so it shows that Iran is going to be very protective of its allies, and it will not have an agreement until all these allies are able to feel, the people in these countries are able to feel safe and secure. So it's not just about Iran; it's about the region. But deterrence also means that they strengthen Iran's military, but also I think a final decision has been made in Iran, and I think that those in Iran who used to believe that Iran should have a a stronger relationship with the West, that school of thought has been demolished. No one takes it seriously anymore after what the United States did to Iran last year in the 12-day war, and then in this war, and how the Europeans basically, like a bunch of seals, like in the footage that you showed, European leaders just clap for Trump no matter what atrocities he carries out. European journalists and European um, parliamentarians, if he says he's going to exterminate the Iranian people like they exterminate the Palestinians, they won't protest, they won't, because it's just the system is just completely uh, corrupt, and the facade has been removed. So the Iranians are going to be a lot tougher. So deterrence means that they will have the ability to make sure that the United States regrets what it has done, or the Israeli regime regrets what it does. And I think Iran is moving in that direction. that doesn't mean that we are heading towards better days. I think the situation for the region and the world is going to get significantly worse, if not much worse, before it gets better. But I think we are moving in that direction.
Yesterday, we've learned from the Iranian media that Iran warned the government in Syria if they do something against Lebanon, they're going to hit them hard, and directly they're going to hit the palace of the president in Syria. And this was reported long after, the warning, Iranian warning on Syria. And what is there still some sort of concern that they're going to do something against Lebanon? Or
Well, yeah, a few weeks ago, I think it was before the NATO summit, where Trump, the Trump, went and hid and left the plane and left all his all the people in the plane to die in some supposed terror attack, which was fake. It was clear from the very beginning it was fake. But in any case, before the summit, I think it was back then that the Syrian regime had gathered a large number of its troops in northern to the north of Lebanon. And since Syria has many takfiris, they're takfiri ideology, kill everyone who doesn't think like yourself. They're allies. They have lots of allies in the West too, in these Saudi funded centers, Qatari funded centers across Europe and North America. These takfiris, since they're not, they see that the Syrian government is not going to fight Israel, and they have nothing to do. The Syrian government wanted to sort of keep their focus on killing minorities, but also the focus was also on Lebanon too. And so these forces did gather, and there was a concern that they would assault Lebanon from the north and the northeast. And these messages that Iran sent were not like sent a few days ago. These were over the past few weeks, saying that if you do carry out an assault on Lebanon, we will hit you very hard with missiles and drones. They will destroy everything that you have. All your bases, all your units will be targeted by Iran. And they took that seriously. Of course, the resistance in Iraq also said that we'll move into Syria too. So they backed off. But the government in Syria is a proxy government of the United States. I mean, if anyone still believes that this is the Syrian people and this was a revolution, they're just either so utterly naive that they're hopeless, or they're just sinister sectarian people on the payroll, which it's useless to talk to them. But in any case, for the time being, as far as I know, there's no threat. But this information that came out over the last couple of days, this is not new news. This goes back a few weeks.
And you mentioned the situation in Lebanon last night. We've heard the Israelis attacking, fighter jets hitting some targets in Ali al-Tahir castle or mount, which is important because I talked with Laith last time. I talked with him. He said this region is so important for Hezbollah. They're not going to let Israel to capture it or to use it against Hezbollah. This could,
and Iran will not be indifferent at all. As I said, Iran has been quite assertive over the past 5-6 months, but now Iran is going to be far more. I don't like the word aggressive because the West is the aggressor, the Israelis are the aggressors, but Iran is going to be
more assertive.
A lot. Iran is going to be very violent. Iran is going to be violent if they push their luck.
Yeah. Does that mean Iran is going to attack Israel, or?
Yeah, I don't know the plans of the Iranian government, but you do recall that what led to the United States capitulating and accepting the MOU was when the Israelis bombed Beirut the last time, and Iran said, "Okay, enough is enough. We're going to start hitting Israel." And then Trump gave those concessions that the two sides were uh, arguing about, so that Iran wouldn't strike the Israeli regime. So it was because Iran was on. I mean, I was told by people in the know that okay, we're going to strike tonight. It was for certain. They had made that decision, and then Trump, obviously, his intelligence or whoever he was informed that Iran was going to carry out the strike, and he backed down on the issues that remained between Iran and the United States that were blocking the MOU from being agreed upon. Of course, I don't know if he gets intelligence because this whole episode in Turkey, as soon as I heard that Trump was that this so-called assassination plot had taken place, I knew it was from Israel. It was just obvious. And then, of course, later on we found that it was Israel, as expected. But it just shows how the Secret Service in the United States, how corrupt it is, that it listens to the Israeli regime rather than U.S. intelligence agencies, and how obvious it is that this is all fake, and how corrupt the White House is and the Secret Service, that they're willing to humiliate Trump like that, to hide him, and then I mean it's just the ultimate humiliation, and then for Trump to not comprehend what they did to him shows how it just shows how you know these people live in an alternative universe. It's like Alice in Wonderland, but but a bit much more dark and sinister cast.
I think that that's deeper than that. It seems that they have achieved their objective in convincing Donald Trump and his administration that Iran is going to assassinate him. If you have that in their mind, then you come out with the new plans. If you go there, Iran is going to assassinate you. But does that?
I mean,
Is there
yeah, I mean,
anything there to prove that?
no, the Iranian government is not going to assassinate anyone, but the Iranian government would not condemn an assassination of Trump. It would not condemn it, but it's not going to carry it out. It's obvious. Americans know that. But I mean, if Trump is assassinated, people will be handing out sweets on the street of Tehran. I have no doubt about it. But not just Trump. If people find out that the general or the colonel who was behind, let's say, the strikes on the schools or the gymnasiums or the sports complexes or the hospitals, if like these people are killed, people in Iran will all celebrate because the Americans, there are lots of people who are involved in the mass murder of Iranians, just like a lot of people outside of Palestine were involved in the ongoing genocide and the murder of the Lebanese and so on. But I mean, that would be welcome news to see these generals assassinated or whatever. But Iran would not be involved in it. They know that. This is what the Israeli regime does. This is what the United States does. They are the ones who do assassinations. They are the ones who murder kids. They are the ones who slaughter and wipe out, people. But in any case, it was. I don't believe. I actually disagree with you on this point. Maybe Trump is convinced, but I think it's hard for me to believe that people in the White House did not see right. It's hard when the CIA says that there's little indication. I forget the phrase. It means that no way. That's just nonsense. And then, like, this is a NATO summit. It's not just Trump. It's like all these leaders of the most sinister military gathering in the world, the military alliance in the world, and the Turkish government, which is a part of this sinister alliance. They would not, they would definitely security in Turkey during the NATO summit would be done in coordination with the CIA, will be done in coordination with intelligence agencies of like the French and the British. I mean, the the Turkish army, the Turkish police, Turkish intelligence, they wouldn't be able to protect the airport that the heads of state are going to use to get into the country and get. No one would believe that. That's just utter nonsense. I mean, Turkey is not some this like broken regime where it's a country that has a state, it has an army, it has intelligence agencies, it has intelligence services. It's just utterly ridiculous. And I don't believe that people in the White House believe that. Again, maybe Trump, the people around Trump can convince him that it is true. Otherwise, I would assume that's the case because what he did was utterly shameless. To leave his all his staff and the journalists as a decoy. I mean, when when we went to Islamabad for the negotiations, Dr. Ghalibaf was on the flight. When we were on our way there, or maybe when we arrived there, I don't know. The Washington Post, which is very close to the CIA, put out a piece saying that the Iranian negotiators should be murdered. And when the talks collapsed, we thought that our plane would quite possibly be a target. And I was one of the people who said Dr. Ghalibaf should not be on our flight. They should hide him and take him back and through some other means, because back then, a lot of our leaders had been murdered by the Americans and the Israelis, and with the help of their proxies in the Persian Gulf. But he came on the flight, and we all came back, and some people could have stayed behind. We had young men and women, journalists on the flight. They could have said, "Well, we want to stay in Pakistan for a couple of days, and we'll come later." And I would have understood, and everyone else would have understood. But everyone came back on the same flight, as far as I know. And we landed in Mashhad, as you know. We didn't come to Tehran. They didn't tell us we're not going to Tehran. We thought we're going back to Tehran, but as soon as they entered Iranian airspace, they swiftly went to Mashhad and landed. And then I came back to Tehran by train, and so did some others. Some perhaps came by bus. That was an option, and some perhaps came with cars. But the point was that Dr. Ghalibaf was on the flight with us, even though people like me were saying he should be protected. And he came to the back of the plane, shook hands with everyone, and thanked everyone, and so on. So compare that with this coward who goes and hides, and then they take him off the plane, and he leaves all the people who were. I mean, he could have just said, "Well, no, we're not. I'm not taking this flight for whatever reason." I mean, the whole thing was fake, obviously, but I'm not taking this flight. But these journalists, we should solve this in a different way. I'll go on a different flight. I'll go on a different date. But these journalists shouldn't be on my flight. They should be protected, and his own staff. But that's not what he did. So the ultimate coward. So I believe that part. I think I believe you're absolutely correct that he probably was convinced that he was being assassinated, and perhaps that's one reason why he restarted the war, the 13 days. But I don't believe that all the people around him believe that. I think there are enough sane people to, because as soon as I heard the news, I said to myself that this has to be an Israeli fake, Israeli fake intelligence that was behind this. I mean, I didn't even need to read anything. It was just, for me, it was clear as day that the Israelis probably told the Americans that, they're going to kill Trump, and then they did what they did.